Welcome, guys. Now, today's case is coming from my own country, Ghana, and it's an evolving case and another example of a case that literally pisses me off. So, it involves this so-called popular pastor. Some would call him a man of God, and as it stands now, he's in the grips of the law under suspicion for some things. I'm going to get into the details of the case and then I'll add my 2 cents. But as it stands now, before I even get into the details, I would want to issue the caveat that, as usual, in the eyes of the law, he is presumed innocent until proven guilty. But then, let's get into the details of the case. And as we proceed, feel free to go to the comment section and tell me what you think about what is transpiring in this issue and what you think the possible outcomes and in-betweens are likely to be. So, enter this so-called man of God called Reverend Isreal Eshun. Now, Reverend Isreal Eshun is the founder and general overseer of God Host Favour Chapel in Accra, Ghana. For those of you who are not aware, Accra is the capital city of Ghana, so that is where most of the action is. And this so-called man of God, Reverend Isreal Eshun, has this chapel there. He is the founder and general overseer. Now, this guy doesn't just run a church as a pastor, he also doubles as a herbalist. He's into the production of herbal medicine, and he owns a herbal sort of company or institution of a sort called Yesu Ajeme Herbal Center. Yesu Ajeme is the Tree dialect, the local Akan dialect for God has saved me. So literal translation into English is his herbal company name is God Has Saved Me Herbal Center, literally. So you see the spiritual linkage between the church and his herbal company business. So his church is called God Host Favour Chapel, and his herbal business is called Yesu Ajeme Herbal Center, translated into English as God Has Saved Me Herbal Center. Now, as it stands now, this guy is in the grips of the law, accused of allegedly digging a hole and literally putting in his 2-year-old and just sealing it. His defense is that this boy had passed, but let's see what's led to that. Now, in recent as 24 hours ago, per the report, this pastor and his wife, called Mrs. Christian McCarthy Eshun, they are living together. His wife is actually heavily pregnant with their second child. So they have this firstborn, a boy of 2 years old, and they took this boy to the hospital, a popular hospital in Accra, and the boy seemingly had a problem with his eye. Upon examination, the doctor is alleged to have eventually diagnosed that the kid has cancer of the eye, and according to reports out there about the testimony of the mother, she's saying that the doctor actually said that the damage had gotten to the point where it's actually not possible for anything to be done about the infection. So literally, it has spread to other parts of his head and all, and his brain. So with that, it's like there was no hope. But on this fateful day, as they were at the hospital, the father, for one reason or the other, left the hospital with the boy when his mom was not around. So he took him out of the hospital with the pretext of taking him home. Now, it would have been expected that at least the mom will get home and the father and son will be there. But when she got home, the guy or her husband was there, but the boy was nowhere to be found. So she queried her husband that, where is our son? Only for her to be told by the husband, allegedly, that the boy passed on their way from the hospital. So he came home and laid him to rest beside his church. Now, assuming that is even true, I was like, hey, how can you do such a thing? There are procedures to follow in such situations. There are legal things to be done. There are traditional things to be done. There are cultural things to be done. There are spiritual things to be done. If I dare say, you don't just up and do what you did like that. It almost makes it seem like he was hiding something. But I'll get into that when I get into my 2 cents. So it became an issue because that is not the legal way to go about things. Ideally, you are even supposed to have brought the person back to the hospital. They are supposed to do an autopsy and other things, issue a death certificate, come out with a whole lot of legal things, and then the rest of the things proceed from there. I'm no expert, but these are things I know from my layman perspective and little knowledge I have sniffing around. So it's very strange that a father and a pastor, for that matter, would have had this situation and just left it like that and just laid his son to rest beside his church on his own without even his mom or any other family member being present. This is the first time I'm seeing such a thing between a parent and a little child like that, and it is very, very annoying and improper. So this eventually led to the police being brought in, and they have taken the father into custody. They have taken the remains of the kid to conduct an autopsy. So I'm sure you think that, okay, well, that is the case as it is. But that is not the case as it is. That is just the first phase. Now let's get into the second phase. Remember I told you that this guy has a herbal business. Herbal business in the sense that he literally sells medicinal herbs under the pretext that it is also fused with God's spiritual healing intervention, such that there's a video of him circulating alleging that his medications are much better than that of the orthodox institutions that you may be given at a typical hospital, and that the medications at the hospital can't compare to what he has. And in one of those videos, he's actually seen and heard talking about the fact that he has this particular eye drop which is really potent and can heal several eye sicknesses. That struck me and made me start thinking. I think that they would have to investigate further with regards to the alleged diagnosis that was given by the doctor to the parents about their son's health, alleging that he had eye cancer, according to the mom. Now, if that is actually what the doctor said, then they need to investigate what would have caused it. Is this something, the boy was just 2 years old, so is this something the boy had at the time of being born? Or is this something he developed later? If it's something he developed later, they need to look at this guy, as in the father, that's also a pastor and a herbalist in a way. They need to look at him. Is it possible that maybe, just maybe, he was actually administering those so-called eye drops on his son's eye, and that escalated whatever medical condition his son may have been facing, maybe even a minor one, to the extent that it became cancerous? I think that could be a possibility. I'm not saying that is what it is, but I think it could be a possibility, and I think it's something the police should look into, because here in Ghana, in as much as the authorities are trying to regulate the production and commercialization of some of these herbal medicines, there are still some unscrupulous people who hide in some corners and peddle some of these things to unsuspecting and illiterate consumers and end up putting their health at risk and giving them more sicknesses than they originally had, for which reason they wanted to try those herbal concoctions. And I wouldn't be surprised that this pastor may have tried some of his so-called potent herbal eye drops on his son's eye, which degenerated his condition to what it was up until his untimely passing. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly. I wouldn't be surprised. But as it stands now, because it hasn't been ascertained as such, I'll leave it as something I'm suspecting. But there's also a flip side to it. Assuming he never used the eye drop, then it begs the question, why would you be selling a so-called potent eye drop to people and the general public, but allow your son to suffer from cancer of the eye without you having to use the medicine to save him? Is it that your medicine was a sham? Is it that it was a scam, such that you knew it was bad to the point you wouldn't apply it on your kid, despite you touting out in public that it was that potent? Two questions, and either way, one of them should hold this guy. If he didn't apply it, why? If he applied it, how come? And that brings the third question. Are his drugs certified? Does he have a legal license to produce and market those drugs? Or he was just doing it because he felt he's a man of God and he's above the law? Because some of them actually think they are. Some of them actually think they are. And his church premises was also looked at. People went in. When the police came, people went in to look at what was going on in the church premises, and some weird things were found again. They found some pots in there with some eggs and some strange things that are very unusual and particularly not mostly seen in typical churches as we know them to be. It seemed more like a traditional shrine-like setup. Now, his wife was talking about the fact that, those pots have been there. Sometimes her husband, the so-called pastor, uses it to prepare certain things for some people who come to him for help. And I was asking myself, what would a pastor need a pot, eggs, and some shrine-like materials and substances for? It doesn't add up. As far as I know, the regular things a typical pastor needs are his Bible and maybe some communion and some anointing oil and some few things, but nowhere near eggs and pots and shrine-like materials. So it begins to also put his actual business in that church in question. What is going on? And some people are suspecting that maybe this guy was actually into something occultic and maybe may have decided to use his son. That has also not been ascertained. In an interview, his wife was actually asked if she has seen her husband use animals or anything for any form of ritual in his dealings as a herbalist or a pastor, and she said she hasn't seen any such thing. But hey, that is the wife. At a point, you would expect it's very likely she may actually want to protect the love of her life. Because bear in mind, she's still his wife and she's heavily pregnant for him, ready to deliver the second born. So, in as much as she is giving a testimony, not in court or the same, it was an interview, I still take it with a pinch of salt. But like I said, it's an unraveling case and we are following to see how it's going. But what do you think about this case so far? I think that this pastor has a lot of questions to answer. I think that there is more to this case. I wouldn't be surprised that as this case is being looked into by the police, new unnerving details will come out. And I wouldn't be surprised if the plot twist changes completely. I have a feeling that this pastor is probably doing some shady things and this is going to bring all of them out. RIP to the 3-year-old. No kid deserves to be like this. Parents are supposed to protect their kids. So it becomes a bit painful and a bit annoying when you see that the parents are the ones who are actually doing these horrific things to the kids. Then who would be left to protect them? And the way and manner this pastor handled his son, even if he actually passed on their way from the hospital, this was not the way to go. I think in the mix of things, this guy may probably be charged with negligence, with the custody of a minor, or several other things, depending on what the other findings of the police might be. In the interview, they even asked his wife whether it was the doctor who told her husband to leave the hospital with the kid, or he just took the kid away. And she was saying that it's the doctor who said he should come and take her and the kids away. So it's a bit dicey, but I think the doctor would also have questions to answer. The doctor should have questions to answer, so that at least all the parties involved in the lead up to the passing of the kid would actually be able to give a vivid account of the events that transpired to the police. But like I said, I think something is up here. I think somebody is lying. And my instincts tell me it's very likely to be the pastor, looking at the way and manner in which he quickly laid his son to rest. I don't think it's appropriate. It smells of somebody who is trying to hide something. There hasn't been any report that when the kid was taken out by the police, they saw something that was vividly pointing to the fact that maybe the kid was deliberately unalived or not. So as it stands now, I'm following the case. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Join me and let's sit on the fence on this and wait to see how things will go. But leave your comments in the comment section about this. Honestly, this case angers me. Not because I have concluded the father is guilty, no. By the mere fact of how he treated his son after he allegedly passed on their way from the hospital. It pisses me off, and I hope there wouldn't be new findings coming out that may make it piss me off more. Let's take better care of our kids, and let's understand that we are supposed to protect them. We don't leave them at the mercy of certain things, whether you think there's a spiritual backing to it or not. But hey, he's still presumed innocent until proven guilty. And as it stands now, Pastor Isreal Eshun is in the grips of the law, helping with investigations. I'll bring you updates as and when they are due. Subscribe, turn on the post notifications, and I'll catch you on the next one.